It's Emil. I got to get my gong in the right position. Where am my gong? I guess I want my gong here, right? Where it says, it shows my PETA T-shirt in the back, and I get my little thing up on top, right? That says, "Hey, Emil Muck 69. Hey, welcome to my takeout, my Emil Muck's takeout, my takes and all things considerable." Back to back, boy, I must have some energy to do these live shows because, well, there's just so much news. More Epstein files. We're going to talk about some of the dump that came out. We're going to talk about, we have Professor Dan here to join me because, we got Christmas coming up. We got a happy holidays. And, you know, we want to get away from the news, don't we? A little bit. Anyway, before we get to that, and a big thing happened in the Supreme Court that is interesting. Supreme Court refuses to allow National Guard deployment in Chicago. So Merry Christmas to Chicago. Man, we'll talk more about that in a second. But first, hey, 69 again. That's the name of my show, 69 Emil Amok. If you haven't seen it, I asked you to see it. I did it once in San Francisco about a month ago, right? And it's ever changing. And I did the show first in Fresno a year ago. Then I went to Canada, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Vancouver, and I did it again in San Francisco. But it always changes because the state of our 69ness is forever changing. And I need to tell you or warn you that if you heard about Trump derangement syndrome because of what the president said about Rob Reiner, well, my play, my one-man show, my one-man play is about my Trump derangement syndrome. So you got to see it. It's ultra relevant now. It's playing in January at the Playground San Francisco up on Potrero Hill. For your tickets, go to playgroundsf. Wow. Just go to Playground SF and then find a way to get to the Solo Fest and look for 69 Emil Amok, a real journalist stands up. I'm doing this show with Solo Fest because they're a great place to work out, a great place to do a show. I'm doing 4 shows there in January. And you can pick a show. And here's the thing about Solo Fest. The tickets are free. Did I say free? Free? He said free. Yes, he said free. It's free. It's free because they're a nonprofit and they get some funding, and it enables the artists to make some money from your donations. So if you want to see the show, it's free, and then there's a little donation on top of that. I believe it's a 501c3, so you can write it off. It's a good time. It's in January. And then I'm also doing it in February, but see it in January. Give yourself a gift of Emil Amok 69 by going there to Playground SF. You can see it on the screen. playgroundsf.vbotickets.com/event. Solo_fest. Solo. I mean, you can see Crawl too, but just go to Playground SF and you get the tickets. And like I said, it's a donation thing, so you can feel good. It's the holidays. Buy a ticket. See me in January. You'll feel good. We'll talk about my Trump derangement syndrome. The show's called 69 Emil Amok, a real journalist stands up. Yes, please see the show. It's always in constant development. And as I said, I did it a year ago. Very different. I talked more about Elon Musk then. I don't talk nearly as much about Elon Musk now. I talked a lot about Ukraine then. Not as much now, although probably I will again. I'm going to talk about all the stuff that's happened. I'm going to talk about 60 Minutes today. Because I actually saw the tape, the video that was censored, corporately censored by CBS. We'll talk about that with my guest, Professor Dan. Anyway, Emil Amok 69 Emil Amok. Go to Playground SF for tickets. Playground SF. They're up in Potrero Hill. And do it as a gift. invite your friends. Tell them to come. Tell them to come see me. I definitely appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it. All right, so now let's bring on our guest. I like to bring on this guy on a Friday, but Friday's going to be a holiday after Christmas. Let's. All the news is happening now, so we're going to bring on Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, Professor Emeritus, San Francisco State University College of Ethnic Studies, Asian American political, professor, and he's got a lot to say. I got a lot to say. Dan, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Forgive the hat hair.
That's right. The hat's good. The hat's good.
I was outside, yeah, but the hair is nasty. I was outside working on my car, so
you look good. You look like a black-headed Curtis Sliwa.
Oh no! Geez.
No. Hey, so all right. The big news as we came on. The Supreme Court has refused to allow the National Guard deployment in Chicago. And I'll just read the first two graphs in the New York Times story. Where is it? The Supreme Court deliberated for weeks over the Trump administration's claim that National Guard troops were necessary to protect federal immigration agents from demonstrators in the Chicago area because of weak support from local law enforcement. On Tuesday, the court refused to allow President Trump to deploy the troops. And now I think this is going to call into question why is Trump deploying troops anywhere? LA, New Orleans, Memphis, Washington. Anyway, what say you, Professor Dan?
Well, it appears that this was a 6-3 decision, which is really refreshing. Very refreshing.
6-3. And the three dissenters who said, yeah, Trump can do anything, probably, let me guess, Alito.
Oh, yeah.
And Thomas.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And now who is the third?
The oldest of the most recent.
Oh, probably Gorsuch, huh?
Yeah.
Gorsuch.
Congratulations.
That's surprising, Gorsuch.
Yeah.
It's surprising. I would, because that means Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh joined the liberals.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And that's a kind of good sign. That means a possible three. The liberals. Really three. Roberts, Kavanaugh, and Coney Barrett are like the 3-person swing vote. Is that the way we should look at this?
Roberts has been more the swinger than any. Okay. And it's largely, analysts keep saying and commentators keep saying it's because he's concerned about his legacy. Man, his legacy was blown a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. Affirmative action, voting rights.
Everything. I mean, it's so crazy. The only thing that he's got in his favor is that, they haven't gotten rid of same-sex marriage entirely yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That's it.
Well, all right, but
let's see what they do about birthright citizenship. I believe we're going to be taking that up today as well. But
partly, but it's something that you point out 6-3, and it's not the 3 that I would have figured. I mean, I did, but Roberts. I know, but Roberts, Kavanaugh, and Coney Barrett.
Thinking that they might be the ones. Those are the only ones that would possibly agree with the liberals on this instance.
All right. So what do you think about this? I guess this is going to change things in LA. Is it going to change things in Memphis? Is it going to change things anywhere? Or
I was trying to look at for the actual holding so that I could determine whether or not it's going to apply more universally. But even if it doesn't, even if they attempt some language that is somewhat restrictive and that it says it's about Chicago's particular circumstance, if other cities, and I'm thinking about my own city here, San Francisco, can take a position that we are exactly in the same circumstance, I think they could win. They would actually fit under the rubric of this decision. I just haven't seen the actual holding yet. Okay, so I got a little bit of reservation, but I think
Mhm.
it can be universalizable. I think it can be expanded.
All right, but the thing is, this shows. I mean, add this to the list of things that are reversing on Trump. This court reversal is a big deal
It is a
because
big
they've
deal.
been rubber stamping him.
Yes.
Now you have the Supreme Court saying, "Hey, there are three who will join the three liberals and vote against you, so
Yeah.
watch
Well,
out."
this was one not as extreme a measure as some of the other things that he's done,
Yeah, yeah,
but at the same time, it strikes closer to home in terms of affecting actual people on the ground in large numbers. Okay.
hmm
So you're talking about First Amendment rights. You're talking about all of the probable cause issues around Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, Eighth, Ninth, and 14th Amendment, right?
yeah,
Talking
yeah,
about all of those in combination being involved here. So that's why I want to see the holding, okay? Because
yeah, yeah.
they could use any of those amendments as the core, right, of their argument, of the argument that they accepted, okay?
So, but at least we got something more than a speed bump here. This is
Yeah,
a
oh yeah.
major
No,
wall
it's
put
it's
up.
indicative. It's indicative of the possibility that even if it never went 6-3, it could still go 5-4, and there could still be majorities making decisions that actually make sense under the Constitution. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, and when it has to do with presidential power, that's the
yeah,
scary part, right? Because the
uh-huh,
greater history, as you just stated, was
yeah.
that they've been rubber stamping, particularly presidential power.
Well, that's the thing. The legislative branch has practically given up, except on the Epstein Transparency Files Act. They voted unanimously against the executive power. Just lording over them. And now this is like one of the first times the Supreme Court has said, "Hey, the judicial branch is separate, and a third of this government. We're standing up to you."
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
lame duck soup time, right?
Well, I think they're seeing, it's supposed to, one of the things that we learn all the way up through college, right, is
Mm,
that the separation of powers means the separation of powers, and
mm,
that the court should not be influenced, right, by the
mm.
exercise of politics by either of the other two branches of government. And the reality is, when you go to law school and you read the stuff carefully, even if you're a graduate student and you read law, even undergrad, if you're going for law prep, right?
Mhm, mhm.
The reality is, you see politics all over their decisions all of the time.
Yeah,
A lot of it depends on the national attitude, and the national attitude has turned sharply against the Trump administration, largely because of the economic circumstances that they face. On one hand, that's literally kitchen table stuff. That's
yeah,
literally what happens to them from an economic and a physical point of view.
yeah.
Can
And
we afford to pay the rent? Can we afford to pay for utilities? Can we get for what do we eat?
yeah,
Where do we shop? Those kind of
and
things are being affected. So that's material, right? And
mhm,
physical. On the other hand, you have the moral issue of how he's dealing with immigrants.
yeah. What's weird is that so we see this decision come down against Trump. At the same time, you mentioned the affordability issue and prices. We actually had good economic news, but the good economic news is contradicted by how people feel about their circumstances, which
Well,
is
if you're seeking good economic news, as argued by Mr. Trump when he
yeah,
interrupted, the finality of Survivor for
yeah.
20 minutes, shouting at the American public,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, if that's what you're saying, they're saying is good news, right?
yeah.
And then, but it's not just. I just made the point, man. It's not just what they feel.
Yeah,
It's
well,
not
I
what
I
they
know,
feel
but
emotionally.
today though the GDP came back and the economy is growing
Oh,
faster.
that.
It's like
Okay.
it's like
Okay.
there's no real good news if people feel bad about how much they're spending for gas, how much they're spending
Yeah.
for all these
So,
other things.
well, see, that was the same mistake that Biden made, wasn't it?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Biden
Biden made the same
administration made the
mistake.
same damn mistake. Wait a minute, stock
Yeah,
market's fine, right?
yeah,
You know, And
Well, the stock market is fine for the billionaires and the millionaires and the people who are getting the benefits of,
well, yeah, but you and I
government.
we got some stock. We own some stock. We got IRAs.
Yeah,
We have
well,
things like
yeah. I
that
mean,
going. And so,
I'm no longer trading like a lot of people. I'm just got, IRAs and that kind of thing, but and 401ks. But it's a thing where the people who are really making out are the people, in that 1%, the people who are the capitalists, and middle class people like myself are like, we're just barely hanging on. We're saying, okay, well, we're more comfortable than the people who are, you know there are people who are not doing as well. So the middle class has expanded into a large portion of our society, and it's more like it's like 99% of society, and then the 1% who are doing really well. Anyway, Dan, to get off the economy, because a lot of it is how people feel and the information people get. Were you surprised at the 60 Minutes pullout the other day? I mean, I guess with Barry Weiss as your
yeah,
as the editor, we can't be surprised. But I finally the 60 Minutes Sharon Alfonsi piece on CCOT and the Salvadoran. It's not really a prison; it's more concentration camp than prison. I I finally saw it today. Have you seen it?
no, I didn't see the whole thing.
Uh,
I just
it
seen.
it it is. I would have to say it is in one place. You get the whole thing about CCOT, why CCOT was so wrong. In many ways, we got a lot of this piecemeal during the summer, during the Kilmar Abrego Garcia story, and about the people who were sent to CCOT. And we got those pictures of the people with the gang members, right, with their shaved heads.
Yep.
But I think
Don't forget
this.
Christy. Don't forget
Oh
Christy.
yeah, Christy Nome was down there, and she's in this piece,
Sleeveless,
and
sleeveless
and
in a tank top.
well, she wasn't sleeveless in this piece, but she's in there. Also,
No,
Trump is
I
in
was thinking
this.
about the pictures that she had taken. Profiles in courage,
Oh
standing in
yeah,
front of a prison. Right, that week, the same week that 200 had been moved down. Uh,
well, it's what really is surprising to me is that most people will remember bits and pieces of this story, like we're sort of, spitballing here.
sure,
But you get a
sure.
piece like the 60 Minutes piece, and it gives you the context. This is what happened in the
Yeah,
summer.
that's
Here
right.
are people who are actually violated and tortured. Here is a human rights group that has done the documentation and the studies about who was in prison and what was happening. Here is what the president said about this, because the United States is paying El Salvador $4.7 million to house Venezuelans there. $4.7 million, a lot of money. During the time of Doge, this was considered okay to spend $4.7 million to ship off these immigrants. So you consider that, and you just wonder, uh, why. There's a lot of people who didn't get the full context. They got little drips and drabs in the summer. To see this now, I think, would have been a service. Now, Barry Weiss saw this. According to reports, she wasn't in on all the preview meetings. She came in and said, "No, we're not running this," even after they teased it out to the public. And we only got the story because Canada, thank goodness for Canada, they got the story first, and it aired somewhere there. It was aired on the internet. People got
Yep.
it, and now they're showing it online. Senator Cory
YouTube,
Booker is showing
YouTube.
it.
Yep.
Yeah, you can find it. You go to YouTube and put down Sharon Alfonsi, CCOT, CECOT, 60 Minutes, and you'll find it. And I would play it, except I don't know how to put my gadgets in. But the one of the surprising things is 4.7 million. That's what we're paying. The other thing that was surprising is just to get the 81-page report from the Human Rights Watch, the analysis there, saying that only 8 of the men had been convicted of a violent or potentially violent offense, and that nearly half of the Venezuelans sent there had no criminal history at all. And if they if they justified their being sent there, it was maybe a civil violation in the immigration law. So by ICE's own record, this is from the report. By ICE's own record, they say that only 3% had been sentenced for a violent or potentially violent crime. And this is of the 400 and what 50 some people who were sent down there. So I just think that people needed to see this to understand what was going on and to hear from the victims. I mean, it's more than a soundbite. People being tortured, being abused, being put in a thing called the island where it was pitch dark and they were abused and tortured. And, this is going to go on and on. And what do you suppose would justify a corporate censorship of this? I mean, Barry Weiss said, "Oh, this is old news. If we're going to advance the story, we're going to have to get, Stephen Miller." She wanted Stephen Miller. That was her thing. She said, it's not good enough to say we sent a request to the Homeland Security and got no answer. They had Caroline Levitt in there,
Yeah.
in her public response to these criminals, and they had Trump, from a public, a public in one of the press gaggles talking about this, but no direct, respond to this report. And Barry Weiss wanted Stephen Miller to respond because then it's fair. Or I think it's just more of a delaying tactic. But it was, to me, um, there was no reason. There was no reason to delay that 60 minutes. I know how 60 Minutes deals with stuff. And sometimes it's not as ethical as people think. So I know that they're not saints. But this was vetted, it was lawyered, it was ready to go. And at the last minute, Barry Weiss comes in and says, "No, we're pulling it."
It had 100% cover from inside 60 Minutes. 100% cover. The only place,
Mhm.
right,
Mhm.
that decision was made was Weiss. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Her
And
decision.
yeah, and Weiss is, she ran the Free Press, which is known for being, right wing,
Right.
MAGA
Right.
type organ, and then she was the conservative at the New York Times on the opinion section, and she was run out of town there because of she was, I don't know, seen as too extreme. She started her own thing, but eh, to she does not know television. She did not participate, and the insiders at 60 Minutes were at least, they were surprised because where was she at the beginning? And
Yeah.
this thing had been reviewed for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and she just showed up at the end and showing really a lack of understanding of how TV news works. And having been in TV news, I know how broadcast news works. You cannot just say, "Hey, we're going to get Stephen Miller." I guess you could have brought him onto the set and had him on live, and then who knows what
And
he would have
God,
said.
God knows how much people love seeing Stephen
Stephen
Miller.
Miller. Well, there, the certainly the Trumpers like Stephen Miller. He's the voice of all the immigration thing. I just was surprised that the best argument from Barry Weiss was, "Oh, we got to get the other side. We got to get Stephen Miller talking about this, and specifically Miller." And I thought, wow, that's kind of weak because Stephen Miller, pretty much you got a blanket denial or a blanket no from the HHS, which did not respond to 60 Minutes. You're good enough to go. And I don't know if Stephen Miller would have advanced it any further uh, about the Venezuelans. What was interesting is they had students at UC Berkeley, a human rights watch type of class that was going over things like the tattoo argument. All these people had tattoos and they're gang related. They're not gang related, but and they proved it. And the people standing behind Christine Ohm when she did her thing, they weren't gang members from Venezuela. Apparently, they were the hardened Salvadoran gang members. So, it was, to me, there was no excuse for what happened there. And I just want to read something. I did I went on yesterday, and I guess I was not as strong as I should have been. I'm a board member of Pan Oakland, and it's a offshoot of Pan America. Pan America put out a statement, and the headline: After 60 Minutes pulls investigation on deportations, Pan America, excuse me, warns that journalism can't depend on government approval. I mean, that goes right to the heart of it. You want the government to say something, you've got the goods. I mean, Barry Weiss was depending on the government sanction, which essentially says, hey, we're so far astray from propaganda, we better go get the government so at least we can sound more like U.S. propaganda.
Where would we be if
Good.
we if the general media, which was much simpler back then because of the lack of social media back, where would we be
Mhm.
if the networks took that position regarding Watergate?
We'd have to wait for the tapes to come out. We'd have
He
to
would have
wait for,
never he would have never left office. The guy
yeah.
would have never left office. He would have finished his second term, okay, and nothing. It
Well,
was all
well,
media, man. It was print media, especially, that
yeah,
did him in, and it was print media and the pressure from print media and television media that forced Congress to face up to the reality of Nixon, and
but here's,
Republicans themselves told him, "Get the hell out while you
but
can."
right, but here's the thing that protects the guy now. This guy here has total immunity. Trump has total immunity from anything. So that's the difference between now
It's
and
it.
Nixon.
Well,
But
okay.
still,
I'm not gonna. It's not total. Okay, his immunity is not total. But
but
it is
then
described in such a way that all he has to do is say this is legitimate exercise of presidential power, executive power,
right.
and it becomes protected. Okay, but it is not total, and you're going to begin to see the Supreme Court having to make decisions that are within that marginal space. Okay,
Right. Well, that's the thing. They're not. They don't have to get down deep in that. They just say executive power and leave it at that. But then once it gets down to, well, we got to start defining what this is, then
there
we're
it
going to
is.
start seeing how if there what kind of difference. But look, this does not
There's
mean.
51, just California alone. Okay, our
Mhm.
AG, okay, and his affiliates, in the how can I say, nonprofit space, have
Yeah.
filed 51 lawsuits against the Trump administration. There are other states that have also sued in their own right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so I want to see how the federal courts, deal with those kinds of issues and how they prioritize which issues they want to deal with
Uh,
first.
all right, but to get to the point about journalism, journalism is still important, and getting into
Absolutely,
the thing that people don't want you to know or people don't want
absolutely.
to. I mean, this should be the signal that if Barry Weiss is stopping this, it's because this is something. This is news that people in high places don't want you to know about. They don't want it in one simple, easy to digest 60 minutes report that will tell you how much money the US government is spending, how many of the people who were tortured or sent to this concentration camp were tortured, how many of these people actually deserve to be put in this situation. And of course, there was no mention of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was
That's right.
sent there, wrongly, and then put in another place once his people said, hey, wait a minute, he doesn't belong here.
And
So
well, and the president of the United States is directly involved in his case. He
yeah,
he is he is personally, right?
yeah.
Personally telling the courts what has to be done. He's personally telling DOJ what has to be done. He's personally telling the State Department what needs to be done. You know, almost on a daily basis. He's looking
Yeah.
at this one individual and he's saying, "This is what you have to do."
See, and this is the thing about the freedom of our nation, the freedom of our people, the freedom of the press to report on these things so that we know when there are encroachments on our freedoms that are constitutionally protected. And so let me go back to the Penn Oakland statement. The decision by Barry Weiss, the new CBS News editor in chief, to pull a 60-minute segment on the deportation of Venezuelan immigrants, reportedly because the Trump administration refused to be interviewed, represents an abandonment of central principles of press freedom and independent news gathering, and also the very principles Weiss herself outlined when she took over, PEN America said today. CBS journalists, among the best in this country, appropriately made an outreach effort to get the government to weigh in on a deeply reported story out of El Salvador. Pulling it back at the last minute because the government chose not to respond is an insult not only to the integrity of the journalists, but to the core principles of independent news gathering, said Tim Richardson, Journalism and Disinformation Program Director at PEN America. Journalism can't function if those under scrutiny are allowed to avoid accountability simply by refusing to engage. We only hope the story runs without tampering as soon as possible. And we know now the story has run, but so few people have seen it. And we only hope that people go to the internet, go to YouTube, and find it. This 60 Minutes episode, it's out there, but it's
Yeah.
important. And I think we underestimate how once things are reported, and you think it's been reported very thoroughly in the summer, there's something when it's put in this context, the way 60 Minutes put it together for this broadcast, for it to be pulled. They pulled an opportunity for the public to see exactly what happened, at CCOT, that the prison in El Salvador. What happened with all these gang members from Venezuela? They're not all gang members. Some were innocent. So this is, I mean, people should be upset by this, and people should immediately have suspicion on what the government tells you. And I think, based on what Trump has said, what the administration has said, we have to assume that everything they say is a lie right now. I mean,
Yeah, once again, I'm not going to generalize about everything they say, because all they have to do is come up with one statement that is more true than false, that it's more fact than not. Okay. And they
mhm.
get beyond your, generalization. What I like to say is everything that they say is susceptible to suspicion. You got to take it all, right, as though it's suspect. You can't assume that it's all a lie, but at the same time, you have to take care, okay, to source multiply. That's
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah,
taught. That's what
yeah,
I taught. At least one other source,
yeah.
okay?
I look,
But the people,
I don't mean to say that they're all liars, but we have to assume that we can't take anything they say at face value.
there it
Maybe it's
is.
extreme.
That's much
Maybe it's
better. That's a
extreme.
much better statement.
Maybe it's extreme to say what they're saying is a lie, but we can assume that based on what we know, that there's a good chance it is a lie. What we do know
Okay.
100% is that we need to be we need to be circumspect of everything they say.
Yes, absolutely. You have to
Everything,
doubt. You have
everything they
you
say.
have to doubt that it's righteous to doubt what they're saying. The
Yeah,
problem is that they won't even bother to do that. The problem,
yeah.
the proof of all of that is a lot of the American public is unwilling to work even that hard.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Look,
That's
the
what they're.
fact that we're
That's why they accept singular positions
yeah.
stated by people from very biased media sources.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's how we get there.
like right wing podcasts and left wing podcasts and
Yeah,
things like that.
whatever.
I mean,
Yeah,
look, this is the thing about most of the podcast podcasters. They are not journalists. Right? Rush Limbaugh was
that's
not
right.
a journalist.
Right.
But
That's right.
when you have journalists doing podcasts and journalists doing columns and journalists doing opinion, then you're in a different realm where things are vetted, things are at least factual. It's more than just a rant. It's a rant based on facts or based on evidence. maybe I might generalize in one way to make things understandable. But as I came back and said, look, all right, it's not that everything they say is a lie, but uh, you have to look upon what they say, the Trump administration, and say, well, there's like a good chance that they're not telling us the truth.
Well, yeah, based on their record, based
Yeah.
on their people, if they just look at their actual experience, that's what's happening right now, right?
Mhm,
The,
mhm.
what comes out of Trump's face, okay, and what comes out of his supporters, is particularly
Mhm.
his cabinet, right, is contradicted by their actual experience. You
Yeah.
can't, that is something that they cannot undo. And so I'm really happy that they keep getting out there and saying things that contradict the actual experience of the majority of Americans, including their own MAGA base.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Well,
now
I
we're
mean,
seeing we're seeing splits even in the MAGA base. We're seeing what? Marjorie Taylor Greene,
yeah.
leaving Congress. We're seeing Elise Stefanik having to withdraw into obscurity after,
Hey, look,
after she's going to leave Congress. She tried to run for governor. She got pig slapped,
she didn't
by
get the
Mr. Trump
endorsement.
himself.
She
You
didn't
know,
get the endorsement from the man, and that
hey,
is sort of the lesson there
well,
for
do you
for
think Vance
all
is
for
going to
all
get? Do you think Vance
sycophants.
is going to get the endorsement of the man?
Well, I'm just,
You know,
he'll say something like, "Well, I think he's good, but he won't make a an endorsement." But here's the thing: this is the lesson for all good sycophants. There is no good end. There, Elise Stefanik is the proof positive. There is no good end. If you're the
all you
good
got to do is
sycophant
look at
always gets
okay.
screwed.
All you got to do is look at his list of top pardons, right? Who
Mhm.
was on his first list of top pardons besides the 1,600 people that were actually convicted, right, of
Right.
attacking Congress, right, and the Capitol, all right? Who are his top pardons? Members members of his cabinet, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so when he's out and he's no longer capable of pardoning, what do you think is going to happen to Miss Bondi? What do you think is going to happen, Mr. Blanche? Right?
Well, Miss Bonnie, look, I like South Park's rendition of Pam Bondi, where she always has a bit of
The brown
brown on her
stuff.
nose, because she's a brown noser, and
Well, but she's
it's
worse than that. It's worse than brown nosing, man. I mean,
yeah.
it's
Well, I
it's
just think that's an apt description of her. All right, so look, the we talked about CCOT. Immigration is still the number one issue, and the story in the New York Times today. Stephen Miller cites children of immigrants as a problem,
there it
and
is.
this is
Your
here
wish, your wish,
this
Emil, your Emil Imuk's wish is granted. You kept
which is
asking me in past discussions. You asked me, "Or well, what about the second generation? What about those of us who were born here?" And I said, we're safe for now. And
yeah.
you,
Well, all right. Here's the lead from the Times. When Stephen Miller, one of President Trump's top advisors, makes the case for the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration, he is focused not only on the actions of those who came to the United States from another country. Increasingly, he blames their children as well. So that Mr. Miller's belief that 7 decades of immigration has produced millions of people who take more than they give, an assertion that has been refuted by years of economic data, is at the heart of the Trump administration's campaign to restrict immigration and deport immigrants already in this country. But he is now stressing an argument that immigrants bring problems to the US that extend through generations. And you and me, as second generations, we're so different
yeah.
from our
Well,
parents.
no, yeah, but it's worse than that because he says it extends for generations.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Okay,
it's beyond
so
us. It's
he's
our
not only he's not
it's
he's talking
our
about our
kids.
kids too.
Yeah, our
Yeah,
kids and their kids. He says with a
that's
list
there
with
it
he
is.
says with a list of these immigrant groups, not only is the first generation unsuccessful, again, Somalia is a clear example here. He said on you see persistent issues in every subsequent generation. You see, I see you in that monkey pose. I see you in that monkey squat. You know, and so you see consistent high rates of welfare use, consistent high rates of criminal activity, consistent failures to assimilate. This is just racist and discriminatory in its face,
Yeah,
prejudicial in its face.
that's why 60% of the NFL players are black. That's number one. And a large percentage of those black players have indigenous African surnames. So they're not, and they're second generation.
Yeah.
And they're not contributing crap to the United States. How about basketball?
Yeah.
How about basketball? You
Yeah.
got Europeans, man.
Yeah.
You got Georgians, right? You got 7'3" Georgians, playing in the NBA, right? They're not contributing at all to American
but the
society.
thing is that
that's why they're millionaires. That's why they get $200 million 5-year contracts, right? You know.
Well, this is the thing about, you know, you think I generalize. How about that generalization? That every immigrant who comes in here, you know, they have this.
You're a good guy. You're a good guy. You gotta be careful. Okay, he's not a good guy. We expect that he's going to generalize. They have to do that, and that's very appealing to people who are already racist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
That's very appealing to people who. This is just a rationale.
Yeah.
For an actual existing racism. Okay.
Well,
so that's all this is. That's all this is.
What I like about this analysis is it does go into this idea. This one particular article goes into the idea that I've always gotten into, that, you know, in terms of the reversion, the backward progress or the backward look of Trump. You know, we're going back to immigration to 1924, right? And this article specifically mentions the 24 Immigration Act, the most discriminatory, the most, you know, it had all the quotas, zero quota for Asia. They had quotas in Europe. And it was the most, really, it is the most racist immigration act in the U.S. history. So this article mentions that. I hope people.
It was actually, and it was also actually redundant.
Yeah.
Because in the instance of Asians, because it was one anti-Chinese,
right?
Okay, and then it was inclusive of Japanese. The next target was 1924. Okay, and then they said, well, we might as well generalize it enough so that we can keep all of these groups out. But the group that was most affected was all Asians.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so it's clear that the 1965 Immigration Reform Act, right, opened all of that up.
Yeah.
And the groups that again benefited most from allowing 20,000 people per year to apply for permanent residency and even potential citizenship. We're not talking about visas, right? That was the 1965 Immigration Reform Act.
And that was needed because the 24 was so discriminatory and so racist and so exclusionary, but this article talks about how lawmakers use the 24 National Origins Act to impose strict quotas to keep out immigrants from Asia, Southern and Eastern Europe, and their families. And the more we get that kind of information out there, the more we are able to see the true reason for the harsh immigration policy that we're seeing from the Trump administration.
Well, what was the true reason? Why was it? That's not the true reason. What is the true reason? Okay, if you're going to compare it to 1924, right? What was the true reason for that measure?
To keep out foreigners, to keep out
why
white purity, because they were seen as lesser. They were seen. It was a white purity thing.
That's the old rationale. That's the rationale for Plessy versus Ferguson. All of that stuff. Okay, why 1924?
Well, Ari, you tell me what? Why 9? Well, 24.
Because Asians particularly were succeeding. Chinese, even though they had been excluded, the exclusion started in 1882.
Yeah.
1882. Repeated again in 1888. Repeated again in 1898. Okay. at the same time, right? Plessy versus Ferguson
Right.
came down,
So
right? So all of those things are happening. Why are they excluding Chinese? And the first reason is because they were succeeding.
yeah, well, also
Okay.
look, and also the Asian exclusion. This just codified the Asian exclusion further, but they excluded Southern Europe or Eastern Europe, but to a lesser degree. They let them in. The quotas for Asians was zero. I mean, the quotas for
Okay.
Asian communities.
Once again, there are two things that clearly show in American history that are major motivators for hatred against the foreigner, for every kind of xenophobia that you can think of.
Hmm.
Okay. One of them is economic. They're taking our jobs. Does that sound
Oh
familiar?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. They're making that same argument now. And that was one of the major rationale for the 1882 exclusion of Chinese. The other one was they're messing with our women.
Oh yeah.
Which one of those do you think made white men angry enough to commit violence on a large scale?
Well, look, this is often the case with the 1910 Mann Act, right? Which
Yes,
is, which
absolutely.
was against, blacks, primarily against blacks, consorting with white women. It was against any kind of interracial kind of thing, and they try to prove, prostitution. It was used to get Jack Johnson, the boxer. So that's the
There was
situation.
a California version of the Mann Act.
Yeah,
Okay, there's a California version of the Mann Act expressly anti-Chinese.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and basically what it said was if a Chinese male crossed the state line, right,
Mm.
with a woman who was not their wife, okay, the assumption was they were committing a felony, okay, because they were intending to commit prostitution.
Right. It was a
So
and the
the guy
Mann
could
Act.
somebody he could be crossing the state line with their mom
Yeah,
or with their sister or with another relative, and the presumption,
yeah.
which is unconstitutional, right?
Mhm.
The presumption was they were guilty of a felony.
Look, we know also that innocent things happen, and you got to go to court to fight it. Like Wong Kim Ark, right, coming back, to the
Sure,
United States, and he was a citizen, and they made him
sure,
fight all the way. So the Mann Act in California, and the Mann Act, that was the thing that got P Diddy, Puff Daddy, the Mann Act. So
sure.
and I was reminded of the Mann Act when I saw the latest Dave Chappelle special that's on Netflix now, where he talks about the Mann Act. He talks about Jack Johnson and about how this law by this Illinois representative man was out to prevent the mixing of races, blacks
Yeah.
especially with whites.
And for those of people who want to look it up, it's the MANN Act. It's double N.
Yeah,
It's
MANN.
it's it
Yeah, man, not MAN, man,
right.
human.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, the Mann Act. Yeah. All right. So
It's just coincidental in that way.
yeah. All right. So we talked about immigration.
Well,
This is a thing.
Stephen Miller, we're generations, they're after us, generations, okay? And my reaction is, what is the American public's reaction?
Well, if
Okay, how are they going to feel about that? Okay,
yeah, I think that if the American public knew that this was, well, you hope that if they knew, they would stop it or do something about it. But we know from watching Project 2025, and it was told to us what
there
they
it
would
is.
do.
There it is.
Nothing happened.
Well, see, even if we educate them, which is what we're doing with this discussion,
Yeah.
okay, and all of our other discussions, will they act on it? Will it affect the way they make their decisions, right, in their own lives? Will it affect the way that they relate to us when we're on the street, when we're in public conveyances, right?
Yeah.
When we're shopping, when we're in theaters? How are people going to look at us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we're heading that way. If you look at that Turning Point convention over the weekend, and you see how JD Vance is now, being heralded by Erica, what's her name? Erica Kirk,
Kirk.
as he's 2028. JD Vance will not defend his wife, but Vivek Ramaswamy will defend a fellow South Asian. and now we have a lot of people going after Vivek Ramaswamy because,
JD Vance defended his wife. I can't remember who the critic was, but somebody was mildly critical of her, and JD Vance's reaction was eat shit.
well, I didn't get that, or I didn't see that part reported. I didn't see all of his speech, but I will say this: what does this
Well,
mean?
that would had nothing to do with the conference.
Yeah, well,
That was early on.
oh yeah. I mean, I didn't see anything at the conference. I'm
Yeah.
talking specifically about the conference. I mean, if
Okay.
he might have
No.
said it like months ago, weeks ago,
Yes, he did.
but you know, as far as the conference, there was no real uh you know uh speaking out for or on behalf of his wife, but Vivek Ramaswamy did. Now we know that the Asian thing, the anti-Asian thing is there, but that's not even the big thing. It's really the anti-Semitism and the racism and the the
That's the big picture.
yeah,
That's the big picture, and it's rooted in American culture.
yeah.
That's you have to accept the fact that it is rooted in American culture.
So
That there has always been a large segment of American culture that is very racist
yeah,
and very xenophobic. Okay, and it ebbs and flows. It shrinks a little bit when there are gains, such as the gains made via a lot of the Warren Court decisions,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Gains made. How about gains class issues? Gains made via the New Deal.
yeah.
Okay,
Well,
and we have people now saying, "I want to get rid of the New Deal." So people are making historical references today, from the Republican Party
yeah.
about what they want to get rid of.
Yeah, because they can't have successful diversity. I mean, all diversity is bad. All inclusion
Well,
is
yeah.
bad. All
Well,
success stories, if it
I asked
somehow,
you earlier
yeah,
I asked you earlier why 1924
yeah,
and why Asians and Southern Europeans.
yeah,
And it's not just racism or culture. It was they were succeeding.
yeah,
Okay.
and
What did they? In the previous 10 years to 1924, there was succession in California and on the West Coast of anti
yeah,
Japanese laws passed at the state level, trying to restrict them from farming,
right,
from just farming. Why would you do that? For the same reason that they went after Chinese gold miners,
right,
right? The original gold mining restrictions were intended to be against Mexicans because they had already been mining gold along with Native Americans, with First Nation people, because they knew where the stuff was.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So they were intent. The problem was that Mexicans had previous rights to mine
yeah,
gold.
yeah,
And so they turned around and they looked at somebody they could exclude, and it was the Chinese. And so they enforced the anti gold mining licensure, right,
yeah.
against Chinese.
Hey,
So why would they do that? Because the
Dan,
Chinese were failing?
yeah, it's just more a protectionist mindset.
Yes, yes,
Protecting for the whites,
yes,
protecting for the majority,
yes.
and protecting against the foreigner. So that's where we are. I mean, we're
Well,
back in the
okay.
we're,
Okay. Now let's apply the logic of 1924 exclusion, right?
mm,
And the real rationale, right? Which is a
mm,
strong economic rationale. It
mm.
becomes cultural as well, but the strong economic rationale. What about now? Who's the threat, okay, to white supremacy in economic terms? Who's the threat to professional supremacy, white supremacy?
Well, it
In
would seem to
economic terms,
be.
in social terms, in scientific terms. Who are the threats?
I would say Asians, but
Uh,
specifically South Asian, specifically
well,
South Asian.
well, they're one of the biggest threats, and they're one of the most obvious threats because they're so present.
Yeah.
You can't turn on the television
All right.
without it.
So who's the threat? Who's the threat? Who's the real
Well,
threat?
it is South Asians. You're right.
Oh, it is that.
I'm
Okay.
agreeing.
Oh,
Okay,
okay. I
but
thought the threat.
but they're one group. Who were the
Yeah.
threats before them? Who were the threats before them?
Why, Dan? Why don't we just hate the Russians and the Chinese like the old days instead
Well,
of hating
well,
instead of hating the people who are Americans?
well, they are hating the Chinese.
Yeah, I know, but then they figured the
They're hating
Chinese
the
are
Russians too,
right.
and what they don't realize is that every group that they hate are making major contributions to the wealth and health of American society overall.
Right.
Even the Russians who think that Putin is right, okay, they may be wrong about that, and we may not like them because of they're living here and still supporting Russia, which they left, right,
Yeah.
which they left for the U.S. Okay, we may not like their positions, but the reality is they also contribute a lot to the
Yeah.
betterment of American society, especially to the economy of American society. Okay, who were the people who were doing that before the South Asians became so obvious? Right, it was Japanese Americans,
Oh yeah,
Chinese
Japanese.
Americans.
Yeah.
Okay, Filipinos, and not just in agriculture. Okay, all you got to do is look at the medical professions, right? Not just
Yeah.
nurses, but everybody all around, doctors as well, scientists as well,
But
and you
the
got
numbers,
Asians
our
all over
numbers
the
aren't
place.
are we don't have the numbers like the South Asians. But all right, to end this segment
We do
though,
have the numbers. We do have the
well,
numbers even greater than the South Asians. We don't have the authoritative positioning that the
ah,
South Asians have.
all
Okay?
right, all
That's
right.
the
That's
difference.
all right. So how do we change this focus from going after? Because clearly Stephen Miller wants to focus on, hey, it's immigration and it's also the legacies of these immigrants, the continuing downward legacy, which is, uh, you know, it's in conflict with all the data, which shows that subsequent generations rise, subsequent generations are more
In the
are more
instance
successful.
in the instance of Southeast Asian refugees, for example,
Mm.
in their instance, it only took a half a generation. It didn't even
Yeah.
take a full generation for
Oh
them
yeah, yeah,
to rise. Okay, and so with the South Asians, once again, took less than it took less than half a generation for them to rise. And one of the ways that they did that was by forming, credit unions and small savings and loans. And
yeah,
who facilitated those developments? That started during the Nixon administration. It
yeah.
started under Republican presidential leadership. Hey, wow.
Hey,
Okay.
they're actually starting to do that, or they want to do that. That investment, but the unfortunate thing is they want to call it the Trump accounts. Giving Trump accounts to kids. Well, it's not a bad idea to give $1,000 to a kid, every kid, and then let it grow. They can't touch it until they reach age 18, and it gets to grow because it's linked to an S&P 500 index thing where it just grows and they get it and they can start a business or go to college or whatever. That's not a bad idea, but to make it so political as saying, "Hey, I'm Trump. It's a Trump account. I'm giving it to you." That I think they can just call it a USA account or something like that. And that
All right.
that that's
Yeah, they can go ahead and call it a Trump account, and somebody will change it as soon as this guy is out of office. Believe
oh yeah,
me, it's like the Kennedy family saying, "We will personally rip those letters off of the Kennedy cultural
yeah.
center." We will
The Trump
personally do it.
this, the Trump that, the Trump everything.
Oh yeah.
All
Did you
right,
see
so
Saturday Night Live say that they did a Trump thing on naming
oh
everything? It was
oh
really funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I saw that, but but the thing about Saturday Night Live this past weekend was Bowen Yang saying goodbye.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's a real. I think it's good for Bowen Yang, but it's sad
It's a
because
loss
Bowen
for us.
Yang.
It's a loss for us because he was a representation that didn't exist until him.
Well, and the thing is, he was such a versatile,
Yeah.
uh, diverse one man diversity army. He played
Yep.
J.D. Vance. He played the Filipino TSA agent in Newark.
Right.
Newark Airport. He played an inanimate object like the iceberg that sank the Titanic. I mean, this guy was he was versatile. He was a representation of the best of diversity, and he was the first. You know, I guess they don't call him
Regular
not
cast.
ready.
He's a regular cast member.
Yeah, yeah, but the first cast member to be nominated for an Emmy,
Yeah.
which no one had ever seen a member of the ensemble as someone they would single out, except for, I mean, there are a lot of good ones in the past, and
Great
and
ones. There are
subsequent.
great ones in the past.
Yeah, well,
John Belushi.
John. Well, I was thinking more of Anchorman,
Okay,
but you know what I mean.
that's because you're a journalist.
Jill, no, 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 but also Jimmy. He played God, I can see his face, and I can't remember his name. Anchorman was his latest one, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
That guy, that guy.
yeah. He's all right.
No,
He's all
he
right.
was good. But no, and then of course, then Keenan Thompson. He got nominated in the subsequent year. Other people. Kristen Wiig. I think she got a nomination after Bowen Yang got nominated, but.
Tina Fey.
But Bowen Yang he really was a breakthrough, and it's sad that he's going to leave. But after 7 years, I remember when I first saw Bowen Yang like 8 or 9 years ago, he would do these lip syncs on social media. Very funny. I said, now this guy, he's going to explode. Now without SNL, I think he's really going to explode because he'll be out there. He'll be, there's another gay Asian, Joel Kim Booster, who is a Korean, I believe.
Yeah.
Very funny, does his own stuff, his own shows now. Um, there's a lot of queer Asian Americans who are out there doing it. Um, and I don't know. I guess that I'm not saying that's good or bad, but I'm just there's something about the queerness factor which puts them out there. And Bone Yang is self-proclaimed loud Asian. You need a loud Asian out there, and he was our loud Asian. That's what I like about Bone Yang. Anyway, hey, look, the other news today. Um, the redacted Epstein files. Well,
Oh
today
yeah.
they unredacted some, or they put out some real some real dillies. There's that one letter, handwritten letter by Jeffrey
Yeah.
Epstein to that the convicted pedophile from Michigan, and he talks about nubile girls and how Donald Trump likes those nubile.
We shared. No, it says outright. We
Yeah,
shared a lot in common,
yeah,
including right our
yeah,
love of younger girls and Mr. Trump.
yeah.
Shared that inclination. It's in
So
there, man.
yeah,
It's in
I,
there.
yeah. All right. So now you're a lawyer. I mean, that's
I am not a practicing attorney.
okay,
Attorney.
but that a letter like that is not a smoking gun. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put it out.
Yeah.
But it is something you could talk about,
No,
right?
I think it might not be a smoking gun. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. But it points in the direction of smoke. Okay. And so it's an inference. It carries an inference. And I thought it was stupid that they say, well, it doesn't mean anything. The denial was really interesting. They said, yeah, we put all this stuff out there and there's tons of it, but there's so much material that refers to Mr. Trump that is unproven. It's completely unproven. It's false, right? Well, if it's unproven, how can you say it's false? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a really stupid rationale. So you don't really need to pay attention to it, regardless of what the inferences are, because right, it's never been proven. Okay, well,
Yeah.
it could be. It could be. There's another letter, a formal letter from an assistant AG in the Southern District of New York. Okay,
Hmm.
and that letter says you got to watch out. It's a heads up in 2020,
Hmm.
and it said you got to watch out. We wanted you to be appraised of the fact that Mr. Trump flew many more times
Oh yeah.
on Epstein plane rides, right, than had been previously reported. And then it
Right.
listed how many times he was on there, okay, and that there were times when only he and Epstein were on the plane, and other times when it was he, Epstein, and young women on the plane.
So
Okay,
I suppose they weren't just playing on their Game Boys. or I suppose they weren't just like
I don't know.
you know,
Epstein might have, because he was a businessman enough. He was a real businessman. He was a
yeah,
horrible businessman, but very successful at whatever
yeah,
he did.
yeah. This is the thing about Epstein, and I don't know. I think that we're going to see more, and I think the other thing that's come out is that the DOJ has been very casual about protecting some of the women who are victims. And I think that at first we all were concerned about how protect Trump, but don't protect and redact people like Bill Clinton, who was like all over that
they
first release.
they put his stuff
Like,
out there,
yeah,
especially the hot tub shot, right?
yeah, the hot.
That
But
was
I think that you know, in the court of public opinion, it's going to carry some weight. But I guess is Trump gonna weather this, and is he gonna
no,
you know
no. You know why he's not going to weather it? Because he's going to keep bringing it up.
yeah
You know, it's not just okay. The more people say you got to release the files, the
yeah
more he has to react to that, and his
eh,
ego won't let him just shut up. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Well, yeah, he's got to be in every news cycle, even in the old days of journalism, these weeks of December were like the down days.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
right.
we
Not
all
much is happening.
agreed
That's right.
we yeah, we all agreed that nothing's happening and
Uh,
that we're all in good
yeah,
behavior,
yeah, yeah.
and it's just placid. It's
Merry
like
Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah.
yeah,
Yeah,
but we're not. But so we're just going to have more of this and more. Hey, here's a stocking stuffer, an Epstein file release, and they always release on a Friday,
and
always release
you
on
know,
the day before a big thing,
and
or a weekend
well, actually,
with the
they
news.
released it. They released it on a
They released one
Thursday,
on
but
Friday.
it's okay. Yeah,
They released one on Friday. They released
yeah.
one like late last night, in the middle of the
Yeah,
night, and then they'll probably release one on Friday
yeah. I keep
next
forgetting
week.
what day this is. So yeah, this
Yeah,
is
well,
Tuesday. Yeah,
they keep the idea is that there's a skeleton shift, right? And this is one of the things about what I liked working the weekends when I was at NPR, because all the big news would be dumped on the weekend, and then I get to cover it.
that's right.
Like at
That's right.
Tiananmen Square.
Nobody
Yeah,
else had covered it yet. That's right.
yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, so
they do Friday dumps.
the
Yep. Well,
Saturday
they still
folks
do
and
Friday dumps. Everybody still does Friday
yeah,
dumps. The
yeah.
Supreme Court does Friday dumps, right? You know,
Or weekend dumps, certainly
yep.
weekend dumps. And so,
Well,
all
those
right,
are
so
highly
now,
suspicious. When they do a weekend dump, you know they want to bury that sucker.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so we're gonna get more stocking stuffers from the Epstein files, as the days go on till the first
You know,
of the year.
okay, here we go. My position on this is side action, man. It is side action. You got to be watching, more importantly, what's going on. They're taking us away from Ukraine. They're taking us away. Even Venezuela is side action, right? You know,
Mhm.
now he's expanding it, and I think t- today there was a criticism from the White House of Colombia as well, and of the
Oh yeah.
Colombian president, right? So what are we doing, man? This is this is like the Monroe Doctrine, okay?
Yeah. Well, look, the thing is the Colombian president has backed the Venezuelan, and the Colombia has been one of our best Latin American allies.
Yes, yes,
And
especially when it comes to production of cocaine. You know,
yeah, yeah. Look,
you know.
the Colombian president is pretty smart, but I've seen him in interviewed in the past. But Latin America is, they've got to stand up to whatever the bullying of the Americans. I don't know, how do you do that
You know, see,
without?
once again, see, when people say, "Well, is it the oil?" Okay, yeah, it's the oil. Okay, but Venezuela also has other precious metals.
Yeah,
Okay, including some deposits of things like minerals like lithium. Okay,
yeah,
and so we're still on a lithium battery thing. Okay, now
yeah.
here it is. When I was a kid and I was in between jobs, I got a temporary job working as doing janitorial for Standard Oil. They
Mhm.
had like 2 week jobs, and what we had to do was clean ceiling fixtures, right? So and they were all fluorescent, so we're
Mhm.
cleaning fluorescent tubes, in cleaning fixtures and the shades, the covers, right, for those fixtures. Okay. Well, because I don't know, the foreman, African American guy, black guy, his one of his sons was on my crew. Right, they made me a crew chief, and he gave me the keys to be able to go anywhere in the building. I swear. Okay, so I had the keys, and I would go upstairs to the area where the health center was. Okay, and because they had aquariums, huge aquariums, and I wouldn't turn the lights on. I would turn the lights on in the aquariums, and I would just relax up there for a couple of minutes, right, in between, and then go back down and work. Well, one day I was riding the elevator, and there were all these stacks of files, and some of them were in plastic bags, which meant that they were going to be stored for a 15-day period, just in case people thought, oh no, did I throw away for shredding, right, the wrong file? So these things were set up for shredding, but they were kept for a certain period of time so that people could go back and look at them if they thought, wow, I may have shredded the wrong stuff. So I was looking through those files, and guess what? It was United States of America versus Venezuela, and it was Standard Oil versus Venezuela. This is 1970, folks. 1970. This is 55, 56 years ago. These cases were up. So this is old news, man. And of course, this was quite interesting to me because by then I had chosen to become an international relations major. So there it was. And very convenient. And I was able to write a couple of papers on that.
So you're saying all those some people would say Epstein is the big action.
Man,
Venezuela is not. Well, look, I think Ukraine and Venezuela are important because those are potential. Well, one is a war, one is an illegal war, one is a potential active war. But the Epstein files, there is still a core group of Democrats who believe that's the thing. The files
they think it's
because also it's uniting. It's uniting.
Yes.
The Epstein files unites all the MAGA folks and the Democrats.
Yeah, what big mistake that will be. Okay, that's once again, Democratic leadership. If their head is not in their anus, it's close.
Okay. All right. So you're saying pay attention to the foreign stuff, but the MAGA stuff say America first, forget about the foreign stuff. And I'm just saying that Epstein, I don't think there's going to be a smoking gun, but the Epstein files is going to hound Trump to the end.
And so be it. So be it. But that shouldn't be the way that Democrats make policy or try to convince the public about what the positive things they're going to be doing if they get back into control of Congress. Okay.
All right.
You got to come up with a real plan. How are you going to actually solve this problem, right, of the economy? How are you going to actually resolve that, right? And one of the ways of doing that is by telling the public you're going to attack the stupid tariffs. Okay, you got to pay attention to stuff that's real.
Or relieve the public of the tariffs. The tariffs are stupid.
Just very simple things. I mean,
are irrational.
You have to keep arguing the things that affect people in most immediate terms.
All right. So
what about talking about campaign contributions, right?
No one is mentioning that. No one has talked about that.
Exactly.
No one has talked about it.
Exactly.
It should be an issue. I know you talk about it.
That is the root of all evil. That is the root of nearly all evil. Is that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The mother's milk of politics is what the campaign contributions, and that's the old line. And no one talks about it because everyone
benefits from it.
Everyone needs the money. So
okay, what about some of the younger Congress people are saying we're going to move on Congress being able to trade stocks?
Well, generationally, these are the way that things are going to change. And you push people who have the old ideas, and the people with the new ideas come in, and then we get people like Elise Stefanik.
Well, yeah, but look what happened to you.
I know. That's my point. That's my point.
Okay, good.
That's my point.
She's not going to be alone. She's not going to be alone.
Epstein files. Okay, we're going to see
It's
more
side
of this.
action. You got to concentrate on what really needs to be done. You need
Uh,
reform of SCOTUS. You need to expand the
well,
court.
well,
Okay.
if they keep doing more of the stuff that we've seen today, like stopping Trump on National Guard deployment to Chicago, I think people say, hey, maybe it works. All right, look,
Well,
let's switch to
we got to
something
see
more
what happens on
personal.
the immigration. Are we almost done
All right,
here?
yeah, let's switch to some personal things. The blackout in San Francisco.
Oh,
You
oh yeah,
experienced it somewhat. It didn't hit you, but you're around it.
yeah.
But it's something. If you didn't live in San Francisco, you hardly
Didn't
heard
hear
about
about
it.
it. Yeah,
Hardly heard it, but it was real, and it says something about PG&E, which is not good.
infrastructure is
Um,
terrible in the city. Okay.
yeah.
Uh, these things only happen occasionally, but they happen when they do happen. They really have a huge economic and health cost. Okay, because a
Oh yeah.
lot of folks, a lot of seniors, particularly, are dependent on machines, right? Not just CPAPs and things like that, but actual oxygen generators in their own
Yeah.
homes and all that that run on electricity. Okay,
Yeah.
they need elevators. Okay, up and down for mobility within even for emergencies, right? And they're stuck.
Oh,
They were stuck in
oh yeah.
multiple story buildings, and that's just one group. Okay, then you've got the hospitals. They have their own generators, and it's a good thing that they do. But this happens too often, and when when they said it was a downtown circuit that blew out.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
I bet you I know which one it is. It's on 8th and Mission. And my wife said, how'd you know that? I said, because when I was a little kid, when we first moved out to the outer Mission, I was still going to school at St. Boniface on Golden Gate, about
Yeah. I
three
know.
blocks away from that corner. And I would walk down to Mission Street to catch the bus to go out to my Geneva Avenue. Okay. And so I would pass that building as a kid. This is 70 years ago, folks.
Oh,
70
yeah.
years ago. And
So
so
you're
that
saying,
facility, how
yeah.
can you update that facility? It's still the same building, exactly the same building.
So you're saying just as you have aged, so is the infrastructure, and it's terrible.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. And
well, look, I have owned real estate in San Francisco, and I know that you buy a piece in San Francisco, and it may have gone through so many different permutations, especially if it was an older building from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s.
yeah.
Unless you're in a new building, and there's not many new buildings.
No.
There's some new developments, but not many. Like maybe out by Candlestick Cove, and maybe someone builds a new house or the tear down. And
Well, the earthquakes, because of the earthquakes, we have and fires, we have a high retrofit, okay,
oh yeah,
standard.
yeah,
All right. So there's a lot of retrofitted old buildings. Now, that's one thing. That's fine for those buildings. The problem is they're plugged into the old infrastructure. Okay.
yeah, right. So you get the new bit, even if you get a retrofitted or a new building, it's still plugged into the.
Yes.
How do you get from the street to
Yes.
the house? And
Yes.
that's terrible. And that's I remember when I lived in the city. They're trying to make the lines underground, and that was a
Yeah.
real hassle. I
Yeah.
don't know if they were succeeded in all of that, but boy, things were cheaper then than they are now. And I
Yep.
don't know. I haven't really followed how the city, deals with stuff like that. I just know that when you go out into the suburbs, there you have a fighting chance at modernity, in some instances, then there you don't have the weakened infrastructure, and you have newer
Okay.
buildings.
We
And
have we have a house that was built in 1980 in the suburbs, right in Fairfield,
yeah.
and I have had to go up there twice, okay, unexpectedly,
Mhm.
just within the last month to
Mhm.
reset all of our alarms and the internet, okay, because we've had both PG&E and Xfinity outages. Right?
Mhm.
The Xfinity outages have happened at least 5 times, and in 2 instances, it affected our alarm system and our cameras, our security cameras, right? Because they're tied to the internet. So there it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. All right. So it's not perfect, but I'm just saying that The
Well,
city
it's
has its
better. You're right,
problems.
and it's better, and it is underground in
But
our
you
neighborhood.
were saying you weren't that badly affected like some people. I mean, you had
Here
lights,
in San
you had
Francisco,
power.
okay. It literally, the outage went right up to the edge of our neighborhood. Okay,
Mhm.
but what happened was everybody to the north
Mhm.
migrated migrated to the south. Okay, parts of the Sunset that were still operational, like Taraval
Mhm.
Street, right, and
Yeah,
Stonestown, and then all the way down to Daly City in South San Francisco, just to get groceries and go to a restaurant to get something to eat. So,
yeah,
so all of the areas that were not affected by the almost 3 days, right, of loss of power, right, were affected by this huge migration. It was like it was like a microcosm of what happens in Europe and Africa and South America when a great calamity occurs, and then you have this huge migration of refugees. That's exactly what it was like in the city, man. You had
yeah,
this
yeah.
migration of people from
What?
the Richmond district, from part of the Presidio, and we're talking about people with a lot of money, right? We're talking
Yeah.
about Pacific Heights and
Oh,
stuff like that.
I know.
Okay,
Well, look, I was at a funeral when all this was going on, and so I was kind of oblivious on Saturday to it, and then I got back and I said, "Oh, the coverage of this is so bad. I haven't
yeah,
seen, there's like a blackout." And I was trying to text you and see how you're doing. I'm glad you're okay. But let's switch over to this topic. It's Christmas. I went to a funeral on the weekend, and Filipino funerals, right?
sure.
Filipino funerals. Open casket. You got to go with this was the first funeral that I realized that there's no one there. There's a body, but there's no one there. You know, there's a body, and we're saying goodbye to the body, and we're saying goodbye to the casket, and we're putting it in the ground, and we're putting a concrete slab, and we're putting dirt, and we're gonna put a little stone on it, but it's done, and he's not coming back. It's just a body. And but he might still be around. My brother-in-law might still be around, right? He passed away, but the spirit, the energy is still somewhere, still present. Not helping the Warriors win, although last night they did win. They did win. And maybe that was him.
How do
Maybe
you know he didn't help? Yeah.
well, I know he like helped the ball go in just a little.
Was he a fan? You know what I mean?
He didn't help me win the lottery. I did not win the lotto, the
Yeah, that's
Powerball.
true. That's
I
true.
did not win although Emil 69, the number 69 did come up the other day in the Powerball. So I just it made me think about funerals, going to this funeral during Christmas, you feel bad. The funeral point is that just that, we go through this ceremony, ceremonies for the living. And when the living don't like to talk to each other, there's some people who hold grudges. They bring the
Yeah.
people come together, and you see people you haven't seen in sometimes years. Like I saw all my cousins on my Uncle Mel's side. Not all of them, but a handful were there, and it was nice to see them. Some cousins you haven't seen in a long time. Some people you talk to, some people you don't talk to. The funeral is an opportunity, especially during Christmas, to come together and to have that miracle of Christmas, which is you forget the grudges, you hug each other, and you forgive. And that was the beauty of this particular funeral for me. That it brought people together, some of whom haven't seen in a while, some of whom are real close family members. But there is a sense of forgiveness to come together because of this guy who passed away, who's not there, but who's brought us together. And that is, I think that's the Christmas miracle, where you could forgive people for
I I think
their
uh,
trespasses.
I think when offenses are passed,
Hmm.
okay,
Hmm.
that is not only possible, it's to be encouraged. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
but the problem is that in some instances the offenses are not passed. That the
I mean, they
offenses
continue,
continue.
they continue, or they.
Yes, because in order for an offense to be in the past, people should at least have accepted that someone was wronged. They, even if they don't apologize, as long as there's a recognition that someone was wronged, okay, I think there should be forgiveness. Okay. But when you got people who strident in their position that they weren't the ones who did any wrong, okay, that makes it difficult.
Yeah, I guess I'm not talking about forgiving people who voted for Trump or anything like that. I'm
Oh
talking.
no, I don't even care. I don't even
Yeah,
care about the politics.
yeah.
I'm talking
No,
about,
it's above politics. You're right. This is above politics.
it's
And
about personal morality,
mm,
familial ethics.
mm,
Okay,
mm,
okay, and
yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. You know,
yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. And so if it's in the present and not truly in the past,
it's
then
continuing because
yeah.
the harm of the past has never been recognized.
But all right, but if you recognize the past and it's in the past, you can create a new present. You
You
can
should, yes,
create
you
a
should
new
indeed forgive. That's to be encouraged.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think that, I've been, sort of thinking about Christmas, and one time I did a story on miracles. They gave me an assignment.
I remember
Uh
that. Yeah.
just to do a story and the miracles are, what is a miracle? A miracle is, something comes out of the sky and appears, the baby Jesus. The miracle is really that, from a personal perspective, it's what you can do for someone else, and it's forgiveness. That's as simple as it gets, but it's not that easy.
No, it's not. Um, we look forward to Christmas. We look forward to some Thanksgivings as well, but
Yeah.
my Thanksgivings were very difficult. Our close Thanksgivings,
Mhm.
because of my, to be completely honest, because of my mother. It's
Yeah.
very difficult. Uh, she
Yeah.
was very demanding that things be her way, and she had no she had no filter, man. I mean, she would be
Hey, listen.
critical of
I,
people
I,
right there on the spot, and
I,
it was
I'm not.
really difficult.
I'm not saying anything bad about your mother because I heard that she liked me a lot.
Well, yeah, yeah, she did. But I don't know if that was simply because you were on TV or because she understood you as a personality, you know.
I don't know. I
But
don't know.
the reason that they went to one of the awards that I received, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
they didn't go to others, and she would that awards that I was getting, and
Yeah.
uh, so I stopped telling them that I was getting awards. But she found out that you got an award, and I was going to be there, and that she's the person who I think who took that picture that we have,
Yeah.
because it was you. She was the same way uh, when she was when Ron Kidichak got
Yeah.
sworn in, as a
Mhm,
judge
mhm.
way back in
Yeah.
'83, right?
Yeah.
Right. She had known Ron ever since I met him during the strike, right, at
Mhm.
SF State,
Yeah.
and so he had actually been my supervisor because he got out of law school earlier than me, and so he was
Mhm.
my supervisor at the legal aid office before he went on to get temporary DA status, prosecution status in the city, municipal government. Um, and so she was really proud of the fact that he was ascending, right, in his
Yeah.
political terms, and so of course they were going to show up for him being a judge and everything. Um, and so she was really happy that he had gotten all these honors and stuff like that. And then it made my pictures. I took the photographs, and my pictures made the papers, right? Not just the Philippine news, but the local papers as well. Nothing from my mother about that, and people said, "Oh, hey, Dan took some good pictures, right?" Of this event. She goes, "I don't know if that was him."
Dan, she loved you. She
Yeah.
loved you.
No,
You
she
know.
didn't.
Well, no, she did. All right. So look, we forgive. Christmas is forgiveness.
That's what we
Uh, I'm
did.
for. I'm fortunate that I went to a funeral. I mean, it's it was sad, but it was a good. I got this thing from the funeral that was good. That it's time for forgiveness, time for that Christmas miracle, and I hope, Dan, that you have a Christmas miracle this year.
Hey, we love our Christmas dinner because that side of the family, my wife's side of the family, they're related to. But I've known the family ever since we were kids, right? So, you remember how close Filipino
Oh yeah,
families were.
yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
the pre 1965 families.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah,
everybody
yeah.
knew everybody, right?
That it was a small community, different from today, and everyone was pretty much in the same boat
Yep.
because they came on the same boat.
Our
They
parents were
they were
working almost literally. Yes, our
yeah,
parents were able to work their way up
yeah.
from poverty and the working class squarely into the middle class.
Right.
Okay.
Take
And
that, Stephen Miller. Take that, Stephen Miller.
yep.
You know.
And then we had the audacity to get college educations.
Oh, audacity. Yes, yes,
And
yes.
yeah, and that's why we displaced people like Miller.
Well, look, I mean, one generation, right? From janitor at the Supreme Court to law school. One generation. One generation. How about me? Fry cook to Harvard. One generation. Of course, there was 30 years of discrimination that prevented, my father from having a family, the anti-miscegenation laws. Whoops, forgot, oops. I gesticulated too much.
Okay.
But that really, is an issue. But,
Yeah, well,
thank goodness.
we I
Thank
don't know
goodness.
about your dad and his behavior as a single man, but
Yeah.
I could have been any variety of half, half, half some other ethnicity. So
Yes. Well, that was the thing about those anti-miscegenation laws. Everyone had a half-life. Everyone had everyone had it wasn't physics, but it was a half-life. It definitely was a half-life. All right, Dan, look, we've gone on for 90 minutes. I appreciate you coming on with me as always. And, I just know that Christmas is coming up. We got Christmas Eve, we got Christmas, and, Boxing
oh
Day, and
man,
then
we
the
look forward to
weekend.
it. I mean, it's terrific
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
our people, a lot of them are cooks. Okay,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
we got descendants of cooks that are now
Yeah.
chefs and caterers, and so it's a wonderful event.
Well, I'm all right. I'm just waiting for that invite someday, some Christmas. You
Sure,
get the
that can be
vegan corner.
arranged. That can be
Get
arranged. There's people there that still remember you from TV.
Yeah, get the vegan corner going, and that's fine. So look, Dan.
There actually are vegan
Oh,
dishes.
that yeah, well, just let us know. We're gonna. But
Yeah,
look, I
we'll,
wanted to
we'll,
talk.
we'll
I
try it
wanted
out.
to talk. I wanted to talk today because there's a lot of news, and I wanted to get your opinion. And frankly, I was worried about you. I was worried. Oh, there's a blackout about Dan. He's in the dark. No, more so than normal. He's in the
No,
dark.
no, no. We were really lucky, and because we had just stocked up in our fridge, man, getting
Oh
ready
yeah.
for we're getting
Oh yeah.
ready for Christmas
You're,
Day,
you're
and
lucky. You're
so
lucky.
if yeah, I mean, people got really messed up,
Well,
really
all
messed
right.
up.
Well,
Anyway,
I'm glad you were here. I'm glad we were able to talk and say Merry Christmas to one another.
and I
Merry
was able to get
Christmas.
work done on my car before coming on,
Oh yeah, yeah. And also we want
anyway,
to wish a Merry Christmas to
Merry Christmas
Juanita.
and a Happy New Year, and
Well, Juanita Salai Wilson, one of our favorite. She really is one of our charter listeners, and she's always there. And
yeah,
Juanita was in the dark. Oh God, oh Juanita, God bless you. Hope you
she
got
was.
some good.
Wow,
Yeah,
what
hope
a
you got some
bummer.
good rosaries in
Oh,
there,
that's right.
Juanita. Yeah, she was
That's
in the
right.
dark.
They live on that side.
Yeah, so well, we're praying for all the San Francisco residents, and,
Oh
and God
man,
bless you, Juanita,
how are they
and
going to
you.
be made whole? That's the whole thing, man.
Yeah.
the small businesses and all the folks that lost food.
Yeah,
It's terrible.
I know
Anyway,
it's tough.
bless you,
Anyway, well, look.
Juanita.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, Dan, and to Linda. And look, we'll see you again on the other side of the holiday, maybe before New Year. And
Yeah,
really, I'm
maybe
glad.
we might be able to see. I got to check our schedule, but I'd like to see you again around on Potrero Hill, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Potrero Hill. This is Emil Amok 69. It's if it's my show. It's part of Solo Fest, and Solo Fest is the thing they do up there. Um, it's a free show. It's a free show plus donation, right? So you see it free, you like it. You say, "Oh, Emil was good here. Let's donate a little something." And then there's all
Sure.
sorts of things you can donate. It's a sliding scale. No one will be shut out of seeing Emil Mc 69 at the playground. It's a nice theater in Potrero Hill, and I played there before. When was that? 2018, 2019, something before the pandemic. Great theater, and it'd be great to see you and everyone. And like I said, it'd be nice to see you before then. All right, so Dan, take care, and really, Merry Christmas to you.
Merry
Um,
Christmas to everybody. Feliz Navidad.
and yeah, Feliz Navidad.
Yeah.
I saw the latest
Maligayang
date.
Pasko.
Yeah, oh
Maligayang
yeah.
Pasko.
Did you have a parole? Did you have a parole? One of those lanterns.
I've never even been convicted of a crime. Why
I
would I?
see.
Oh,
See,
oh,
Filipinos love those pearls, those
yes,
stars.
I do. We do not have one, and I've always wanted to either make one or have
Uh,
one made. I
my
think they're
my
beautiful.
They're beautiful, but we were tree people. We were tree people. We had
Well, we
we had
still
we
are.
had a
We're
Christmas tree.
tree and wreath people. So
Tree and wreath. How about this? But my favorite tree, my ninang, out on the outer mission, she had an aluminum tree. The kind with the wheel. Oh man,
Really?
that was a light show. That
Yeah,
aluminum
oh
tree.
yeah,
Oh, it's red, it's orange, it's yellow, it's green, it's blue, it's indigo.
oh
Oh
yeah. I
man,
remember.
this is trippy. It was
I remember.
trippy.
Yeah,
It was in the 60s. It was in the 60s. The aluminum tree. A white
yeah,
tree. I know, I loved
yeah.
it. I
We
thought that
had
was
one of
great.
the most god awful trees. It was the plastic white tree.
Oh yeah. But that was right,
Ugly,
because you could
ugly
keep in those
tree.
lights. You could get those lights in there.
Ugly tree.
It was like the
Yeah, yeah,
snow.
but the heat from the lights would make the tree off gas, right?
Oh,
the thing,
that's bad.
the thing
Off
without
gassing
gas.
tree.
Yeah.
That's why. That's why you
Oh
need the
God,
Pepto-Bismol. Pepto-Bismol on the tree. No off
it was
gassing.
an ugly sob. Let me tell you.
Okay. All right,
Okay,
Dan. Hey,
take care. Maligayang
Merry Christmas
Pasko.
again. And Maligayang Pasco. There he goes. Daniel Phil Gonzalez, my friend, College of Ethnic Studies, Professor Emeritus, San Francisco State University, and uh, we love having him on to talk about all these issues. Go back and we talk about everything. We talk about immigration. We talk about Stephen Miller. We talk about the Epstein files. We talk about the Supreme Court. We talk about we talk about 60 Minutes. We talk about our Christmas trees, and we even talked about Emil Amok 69, the show I'm doing at the playground, SF Playground SF, I think it's called. You get your tickets there. Like I said, they're free, but you got to book the ticket and then make a donation. A donation. I mean, it's not profit. This is non-profit theater. It's Emil Amok 69, A Real Journalist Stands Up. Book your tickets. It's in January. Go to that playgroundsf.theboxoffice.com and then book it for the Solo Fest for Emil Amok, my show. It's a funny show. And because of the Rob Reiner situation, when Donald Trump said, it's Trump Derangement Center, this is my play about Trump Derangement Center. Trump Derangement Center. I talk about it. I did this show throughout in Fresno, in Canada. It's different now because things are different. Things are different. Anyway, check it out. Check it out. All right. Once again, Merry Christmas to Juanita, our inaugural, one of our charter members on the the Emil and Dan show. And also to Dan. We like to close with a little holiday meditation. You know, where you do nothing. You just do nothing. That's a meditation. That's what meditation is good for. You do nothing. I like the loving kindness meditation. Sharon Salzberg does it. I borrow from her. The loving kindness meditation, putting out the love, and it comes back twofold. So, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. It's the ease. Ease. Take it easy, right? The Eagles, take it easy. It's ease. That's what we want. Till next time. Maybe I'll pop up before Christmas. Maybe I'll just, say I'll put a wreath or put a little tinsel on the gong before Christmas. I mean, this is show 930, I think. I've done 930 of these. Anyway, till next time. Emil Guillermo. Emil, amok to you. Mahal.